Chair, she's passing down some literature that we have. But it is currently 6 o'clock on the dot, and we are going to start our meeting. So if you guys don't mind, Ms. Alexander had sent copies of our meeting minutes from last month via email, but I also printed them out. Does anybody object to looking over them right now and then accepting them so that we can send them to our clerk of council?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to double check and confirm the times because I'm pretty sure this was still when we were on the half-hour schedule. So I don't think we started at 6:30 that day. I don't believe we did.
Madam
Because that would have
President,
been public safety at that time, I think. All I wanted to say was you just need to, just the times.
That's a good point. So
Yeah, because otherwise we met for 90 minutes according to this, and I don't think that was the case, but I could
thank
be
you for
wrong.
calling that out. I appreciate it.
Unless this was a different meeting other than the one I'm thinking of. It is, it's a different meeting. This is a special meeting. This is not the regular meeting.
Madam President,
So that, never mind, I rescind my comments.
Ms. Clear, I think you were out of town. Your meeting got canceled, which was supposed to be our first hour on your
Yes.
portion.
Yes.
So the meeting before that, there was a half an hour, and then you were supposed to do your first hour meeting, and that one got canceled. So these minutes are from a half an hour meeting.
Oh, well, Ms. Dukestein, this is the special meeting that she called on Wednesday, March 11th.
Okay,
I
thank you.
missed that date reference, and it was for the special meeting. So this is not for the regular meeting that was on the 9th. This is for the special meeting. Okay, got it.
Alrighty, but we will make sure that that is all correct. I believe that it might be. So I'm gonna look at the agenda, and you know what? Would you guys want to hold on to these, look over them a little bit longer, and accept them at the next meeting? We'll have 2 meetings to accept, minutes to accept. It'll be this one and our special one. Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Ms. Alexander?
it's okay.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to say everybody is here for the exception of Ms. Chichester. She did email me and say that she's going to be a little behind. So once she arrives, we will welcome her and let her join us. I also received an email request from Ms. Zorb requesting to join our meeting. So when she is available to us, I will allow her to join us as well. But other than that, everybody is here and present. Number 3 on our agenda is to discuss the new health policy initiative, so like our new brand names. I love naming things, so this is really exciting, but I'm going to let Ms. Clear, who's the mastermind behind some of these names, kind of go through them and tell us which ones she liked the most and go from there.
Full disclosure, I am not this smart. So I asked for technical assistance from an augmented reality, what do we say? Intelligence system to aid with creating just a list of names.
Okay.
And I don't know that we necessarily need to decide on this tonight because
Okay.
we're only seeing this for 5 minutes. So I can, I just wanted full disclosure, that's where that came from. But there are a couple that we did discuss in the We Thrive meeting. And we agreed that since this is going to be a city-facing, community-facing initiative, that perhaps we should discuss it in this committee and go from there. But there's absolutely nothing time-sensitive about this. So if everyone just wants to kind of noodle on it, take it home, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to get it out there and just start the ball rolling.
If I may, I like NCH Forward, Health, Wellness, and Sustainability. I like that one.
Which one? Oh, okay,
It's on page 2, under Forward Looking Aspirational.
on page 2. Oh, I only have one page. Is there?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
somebody's phone is on, talking.
No, it's just all the
It's
kids outside.
Is that
Mhm.
outside?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hear,
No, it's okay.
I
You can,
apologize.
it's loud.
for the viewing audience, there's
Yeah.
people congregating back here on a break, and they're obviously right behind our door. So we
Yes.
can kind of hear it. And when my desk was right there, I could hear it quite a bit sometimes, so that's what that is.
I thought it was like
Yes.
somebody's phone accidentally.
Brandon, do you see any names on here that you stand out to you?
I thought of one. It was an acronym, but I'm blanking on it. It was instead of North College Hill, HEAL. But I am blanking on what they like health something access. I gotta remember what the initials and I'll send it back to you. But that was my first thought when we was thinking about the names.
I really like that. Brandon, I love your ideas. You always come up with something that's like really cool. NCH Heal. That can
Madam
accomplish
Chair.
a lot of stuff. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't remember which ones you said you liked.
So I like NCH Forward, Health, Wellness, and Sustainability. I really like NCH Heal, HEAL. Let's see.
Is
What
she-
about Miss Alexander? Do you see one that you like?
I do not.
I like the wellness sustainability,
Where?
that one.
Oh, okay. So we got two for NCH Forward, Health, Wellness, and Sustainability.
Madam
li-
Ch- I liked Our Hill, Our Health.
Ooh, I like this one too. Our Hill, Our Health. I kind of want to stay away from Thrive because of, we thrive.
And I
Ms.
didn't
Orr,
really
you may
give it any
join.
kind of feedback, so that's what
Yeah.
it came up with.
Yeah, okay. And this one's very cut dry, but I do like NCH Wellness Sustainability Action Plan. So those are my top. NCH Heal, NCH Wellness and Sustainability Action Plan, Our Hill, Our Health, NCH Forward, Health, Wellness, and Sustainability. Those are my top picks. Good evening, Ms. Zorb. We are going over the brand names for our new initiatives. And we are picking out a couple that stood out to us that we've read over the course of a couple of weeks. Brandon Davis came with a new one that was not on the list, NCH Heal, HEAL. He does not remember what each letter represented, but it represents something. So just wanted to catch you up to speed a little bit.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So, we'll table this for now unless you guys want to move this to council floor so council can look at this as a whole.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I would say that I don't know if it really requires legislative action, but, because we've already passed the legislation that kind of backs this up. But, yeah, I mean, I think getting all of council's buy-in potentially would be, I mean, there's 6 out of 7 of us here right now, which
True.
seems a little heavy. But if we want to do that, I think what I would suggest is, again, there's really no time crunch with this to kind of sleep on it, think about it,
Okay.
and maybe come back in the next meeting and see how we feel.
Perfectly fine. Awesome. Well, again, thank you for all your hard work and bringing all these different ideas to the table. So next on our agenda is Juneteenth. I don't really have an update. Just wanted to check in with our city administrator and see where we are with that and if there's any additional volunteer work that needs to be done or anything like that.
Thank you. I think I already said this, but I'm just still super happy that we were able to secure the $5,000 from Chase Bank. They're still sponsoring. They're encouraging us to have multiple sponsors. They don't want to own rights to this event, although they do want to be a healthy stakeholder in it. We do need volunteers. I know that our new recreational director is getting together a flyer to ask or get help. She's going to be reaching out to the team members that helped last year to help again this time. she is working on the acts for the day's event for Juneteenth. Currently, we are still keeping it at a 2-day event. The Saturday is a focus of family and children, just everybody across. And then the Friday is, thus far, is centered towards just adult fun and getting food. Just kind of, if you want to come out, it's kind of a concept around the food trucks and just coming out and just being neighborly, not necessarily a focus on any particular acts or, just a continuation. If you want to come that day, that's fine. If not, that's also fine. I don't know if everyone remembered last year, one of the surveys of this event was that we had brought out the 513 bus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, that's a great tool for the community, but actually the community did not care for that. They felt as though if we're celebrating Juneteenth, we don't want to associate it with things that, yes, and that impoverish the community. So they wanted other, like just a fun event unassociated with those types of things. So Chase Bank and I and the recreational director, we've dug in to try to pull out the type of things that would support and uplift the community, financial wellness that is around that. So their programs are going to look like that. We're just trying to be better equipped this year. Last year we had, we needed to have some screening outside. So we're going to put that on the Saturday so that it's much easier for us to be able to, fit all of the programs and the screens that are needed instead of trying to split that portion across 2 days. And we'll focus on things like home ownership and those kinds of things that kind of just celebrate the community in a more positive space and not looking at it from the impoverished needs. There'll be some kind of hidden things, like you can pick up just some freebies in there, but not necessarily connected to the fact that the community is, low to moderate income. Just to celebrate the kind of mantra of Juneteenth as a whole. So that's kind of where we are. I know that she's got some really good things on the table. The African dance, which we had previously, but I don't know if she's going with the exact same company that did previously. I know there's a candle making pour maybe coming. I'm pretty sure they secured. So lots of fun, just coming out and doing activities. Hopefully we have some nice weather. So she is definitely up and going with that.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for that update. And it sounds like there's nothing needed from council.
Not at this time.
Perfect. Okay. Next, it's back to you, Ms. Dukestein. UC Health Project update. So we've passed to accept the grant, and we have the $100,000 that we already secured. So what's the next step for this project?
I just spoke with him today. I sent over the past legislation, which he watched the meeting, and he wanted to make sure that the language was within the parameters of something they could accept, and he did say that it was. I sent an email off to our constituents at Hamilton County, which is where the $100,000 grant was connected to, just to say that we are going to use that $100,000 to support this dual effort with the UC Health grant. And then that leaves us about $11,000 that we would incur out of pocket.
Okay.
And so we had talked about the rest of it. We can kind of have ongoing conversations, like who does our artwork, and there are some other bells and whistles. We can actually upgrade, and the grant, $60,000, can be used towards the smaller fitness center or the larger fitness center, and the same amount of concrete would be used for both. So none of those are factors that would change.
Okay.
There is a slightly larger investment, but it would not be supplied for by the city. I'm applying for another grant to if we can get the larger one. If we get the money, then we can put it towards that. If we don't get the money, we'll still get the one that we are on track to get.
Okay.
And
Madam
so,
Chair. Wait, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I thought you were finished with your thought. Go ahead.
No, I am. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. I do have a secondary question based on what you've just said, so I'll get back to that in just a second. The two fitness courts, I'm just going to make a question mark here to myself. First thing I wanted to say was I went back and read or listened to the meeting again, and I actually owe you an apology. I did say
Thank you.
adopt.
I listened as well.
And I crossed out the wrong word on what was in front of me, so you were correct. Okay. The second thing is that I do think that it is important to have the grant program requirements in some way associated with this project and with this legislation. I know we already passed it, but Ms. Gaston did provide us with the full packet via email, and in the packet, it was the funding cycle grant program requirements document that we were all asking about in the last meeting. It's 2 pages. It's just a list of here's what we do first, second, third. And I did take the liberty of reaching out to Mr. Dieters to find out what procedural steps we would need to take to make sure that this gets associated. There's a way we can do it, I think, where you don't repeal it, but you rescind for the purpose of amending to add new information that supports that existing legislation. There's a procedure for that. So I'm just going to work with him, and that was just today because I just saw the packet Friday. So I am going to ask about that. That way we have everything together. So our future selves have everything that goes with this project on the same piece of legislation. That's the goal. So I'm going to work with that. That way we don't have to go through this a second time. But just to make sure that this document is attached so it's all in the same place. That's the goal. Not to repeal. It doesn't affect the effectiveness of the previous legislation. It just allows us to add what we were asking for in the first place, or at least I was. Oh, and my other question, you mentioned 2 courts. I missed that the first time we talked about this. There's 2?
No, there are 2 different ones that we can select. We opted for the smaller one, but if we do decide to upgrade per another grant, it will not change any of the other factors. It will create a small increase that will be grant driven. If we get the grant, we can move to that. If we don't get the grant, we can't, or we don't have to.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Alexander?
2 questions. One, if we, what was the word, rescind or repeal the legislature and add the additional documents, will that affect what you've sent down to Hamilton County in any kind of way, or will they have to review it again?
No, it will not. I know Mr. Dieters gave her a legal process, but I believe probably Mayor and Ms. Zorb.
To be clear, he has not replied to me yet. I reached out to him.
Oh.
But, yeah, and it's not to repeal. I want to make that very clear. It doesn't affect the legal status of the original legislation. This is just, I'm asking him what can we do to make sure that this ends up associated with that. But he has not responded to me yet. I just want to make that clear.
So I know that, again, Mayor Nichols and Mary Jo Zorb may remember that in old council, when they had documents to support, they would just upload that with the current legislation. I don't know if you guys remember what the circumstances of those, the support was, but if there were like reasonings behind the way that the piece of legislation was written, there was support documents to that. I don't know if that was like a circumstance where you were doing a process of pulling it back and adding it, or if you just added it so that it would not be seen separately. But I know that there are spaces where legislation had support documents.
And that won't mess up what you sent already, because you said you had to make sure the wording was okay?
I don't believe so.
Okay. And my second question was, I know you said we won't use city money, you'll apply for grants, but specifically, how much more is the larger one?
The larger one is about $50,000 more. So the grant that I applied for is $50,000.
And what's generally the turnaround to know?
We should know something by end of May. I applied for it in March.
So when will we begin the construction of the fitness center?
So once we get the legislation sent over, which I did that, and I'm working on getting them the PO process, and then they'll give us dates for the construction. But I want to make sure that the school district is comfortable with the location. That also does not change. I did do my checks and balances before, but then Blaylock came back and suggested that maybe we put it further out for the sake of not having the accessibility to the school. So there's another plot of land right by where the basketball and the park is that we could potentially use that's closer to the street. And the buy-in there would be that then the people using it can just pull and park on the street. The kids can still access it coming from this way. The police department can access it coming from this way. But that keeps people who are just adults using the park not coming completely up into the school property. And so I just want to make sure that they're comfortable with that. I did ask the Brian Hudson if we had a change of location, as long as we're in that same vicinity, that we were fine to go forward.
Okay.
That was just Blaylock's. Actually, it was inspired by conversation when you guys went up to talk to him. He was like, well, maybe here, because then that keeps the public from coming over here, and all the same parameters with the fence and everything would still be the same.
Okay.
It's just maybe putting it closer to the street so that people who don't have any connectivity with the school are not like up in the inner workings where the kids are.
So will they have access to the school's track? Because I know that's what it said in the application. So will the track be open to the public?
Yes. So there would be a track around the actual fitness center.
Okay.
So that's the track that they were talking about, the track that goes around the fitness center.
Got it. And so this new location, because I read that it needs to be 150 feet away from a playground, is that still 150 feet? Do we need to abide by
So our
those?
first location wasn't even 150 feet away from the playground. They were just willing because when they did the feasibility numbers for this area, that registered as a really good area where there's lots of public traffic. And then we have the public park there. So as long as we put a fence, or there is a fence in a fencing space, they were willing to allow us to put the fitness center in a space where it wasn't 150 feet away from a park.
Okay. I have additional questions, but I believe Ms. Zorb wanted to speak as well. So I'm going to give her that opportunity.
Actually, you stole, thank you, Madam Chair. You stole one of my questions. But the other one, I believe you said that you went for the smaller of the two fitness courts. But when I look at the grant application, it lists, it says, please select your preferred fitness court configuration. And it says the fitness court studio, which is $210,000. And that's the larger of the two.
So yeah, we talked
So
about it.
it's like 72 by 38, not the 38 by 38.
But we talked about it today. What's in our legal documents is the smaller one.
So the grant is incorrect?
You may have printed out, did you print out the grant prior to that change?
I have the grant that the UC guys sent over.
Okay. Well, I verified with him today. We are definitely in tandem to do the smaller one because that's
The
what our
38 by 38.
yes, that's what our the finances on the legislation say.
And
All right, I'm sorry, I have
No,
one
I'm
more.
sorry, go ahead.
Forgive me. So I also just heard you say that, because I did read over this entire very lengthy document, and it was very clear that it has to be 150 feet from a playground, but now you're saying that they've given us basically a waiver.
They have.
Is
And
that in writing?
That is
Because
in,
this clearly states it can't be.
yes, and he talked about, you weren't on the call, but he talked about that when we were on the call, that Ms. Alexander and Ms. Gaston were there. I can have him to put that in writing and bring it back. That's a fair question, but we were never 150 feet away from, even with the first location
I
or
agree.
or that.
I agree, I measured it.
So that's the reason why. So that's the reason why they were uber focused on the fence and making sure that there was fencing as well. So,
Okay.
yes, but I will, let me write that down so I don't forget.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the groundwork on this required, so the smaller one requires us building a 40 by 40 foot concrete pad. The larger one will require us building a 40 by 80 concrete pad. So would just say that we build the 40 by 80 concrete pad and have the opportunity to add features as necessary as we get
Yes,
access
that's
to
the
it?
reason why I said the concrete pad won't change, because we'll opt for the
We're gonna make
larger
the
pad,
bigger.
and that just helps to make sure that people can go around safely with the walking area.
Okay.
And if we wanted to later add features that we can have a build on, or if we got the secure the $50,000 grant, then we can go that way. I want to leave this council group with options.
Right, where there
to
is the
go- to
opportunity to
grow.
upgrade and everything.
Yes.
Good deal.
So when I believe I asked this question, but when I looked at my notes prior to this meeting, I didn't see the answer. But I know we're not utilizing a concrete company. We're going to use our Public Works, and Public Works is aware and equipped to do this work.
Yes, I
Okay.
talked to Braden extensively about it.
Okay. Okay. Well, does anybody have any additional questions at this time? Looks like we're not going to start this project until the beginning of summer-ish. So,
Yeah, they want to make sure all the paperwork is clear. I want to make sure we're still talking about this as a rolling update in this committee. Just that we see it through together.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I do have one other question.
nope, that's fine. Go ahead.
Mr. Singh, do they actually come out here physically, or do we just send them? Do they ever come here and look at the site and physically approve the site, or is that just, we send them a Google
They've
picture
already
and-
come, but they'll come again when it's time to install, because remember, we're using the official installers and not our own group that we're looking for. So that another checkpoint is when they come out to install, to make sure that the equipment and everything, the concrete pad is everything that it should be.
I guess I kind of meant before we invest in the concrete pad, to make sure that it's an acceptable location.
They've already looked at all that area, so.
But we moved it.
Again, but they looked at that whole area, so when we're making the suggestion to move it out, that they had actually already suggested that in the beginning. And when I talked to Blaylock initially, he was like, oh yeah, we can put it here. And so then that was always one of the areas that we were looking at to put it in that general vicinity. And then there was another area which is right outside the baseball field, but that is exclusively the school, so I didn't want to use that space.
So we're now on Shaper Park property and not the old pool, is that correct?
Yes,
So we don't need Blaylock's buy-in,
well,
because it's North College Hill city property at this point.
yes, but we would want to get his support just because the school is right there. So I think it's fair that we're going to bring in additional traffic and adults that are visiting the fitness center, that we would want to make sure that the school is comfortable.
Okay. Does anyone have any additional questions or thoughts? Ms. Chichester, I haven't heard from you all night. How you doing over there? Okay. Well, moving on, we have the 1500 West Galbraith Road update. Are there any updates? Or are we going to table this and put it in the parking lot?
Well, I
You know.
would want to know how you guys feel about distributing the appraisal that I sent out to talk about that. I feel like it's a really good document. I had Bill Dieters asked to see it. He read it over.
Mhm.
He said it was very thorough. He thought it was a good document as well. So I'll give some things that I've said it and I've reiterated. I have an email that I received, and it's again asking us to report on our dollars. And I'm hesitant because I'm just trying to make sure that I say the things that are important, because some of it is finance stuff and some of it is just the idea around 1,500. And we were talking about ARPA funds. And so I was reading back through my email exchanges with Mr. Berry. And so we had an obligation. I'll take you down a timeline just a bit. We had an obligation to report on the dollars in March of 2025, which we were told that we did that, that our finance manager did that. There was some reporting. It didn't happen on the 15th of March as it was supposed to, but it did happen. The way that the documents read, they list out the encumbrance that we put on in 2024, December 2024, which lists all these projects. We would have had to, so I know that there's some conversation around, do we have to spend the money by 2025? Do we have to spend the money by 2026? So we had to get the project started based on that encumbering by 2025. We have qualified spending against all of those different encumberings by December 31st, 2025, so that extends our ability to spend the money through December of 2026. Go ahead.
This microphone, I'm gonna put a little dot on it so we every time I move it. Anyway, so I just first of all, and I know this is your meeting, but discussion of ARPA isn't on the agenda. So I didn't know. Maybe you mentioned that we turned in a bunch of projects in terms of that legislation from 2024, one of which was the splash pad. So I remember seeing that on that legislation. So I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole right this minute, but I did want to say potentially if we have time in new business, or push that question to another meeting if we can't. I don't know, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I do know that one of the projects on that list was the splash pad.
So just to be clear,
So the relevance of me bringing that up
Yes.
connected to 1,500 is because you need to know how you can spend the dollars if the dollars are still available. I think
Correct.
that question was still on the table.
Correct.
And we had asked, Ms. Gasson had specifically asked to talk to Mr. Berry and to jump on a conference call. We had not done that, but we have received lots of documentation that kind of support where and how we can spend the dollars. And did we have the ability to take the spending through December 31st of 2026, which we do have that ability.
And
But
the question if we can use ARPA to tear down 1,500.
Okay, so I think that that's already been answered. You cannot use ARPA to tear down. I distributed a piece of, I can distribute it again, but I sent out and highlighted in that document that ARPA's monies cannot be used that way. I think there was also, just to quantify, some question around brownfield. And if we cause the damage to the building ourselves, which we did do, we cannot use brownfield dollars either. to tear down a municipal building that is currently blighted or having some environmental issues.
Okay.
So in terms of 1,500, I think this group has to just decide what it is that you want to do. You asked me to get the appraisal, so you have to figure out how you're going to spend those dollars. I think those dollars kind of naturally have gone hand in hand with 1,500. Not that they have to be, but there needs to be some clarity provided around those dollars and if they're still available to us. Because at one point, we were ready to write a check. I was just talking to Shiva about it before we came out here, and she's like, I really wish we had written it in January if we're going to wait. Because of what she doesn't want to see happen as our finance manager is for us to get glassy-eyed over this amount of money that's sitting in the bank that we have to send back if we don't use
Absolutely.
in the parameters of the way that it has to be used. So, anywho, I think the appraisal and having conversations about that and getting your questions and answers and reading thoroughly through that document, I think it is beneficial to say, and I know Ms. Gaston and Ms. Zorb have the appraisal, but I'm not sure if the rest of the committee do.
Nope.
It is important to acknowledge that we had a report on that building in 2012. We had a report on that building in 2017, and then we had another report on that building in 2023 and 4, that all of those reports were included and given to the appraiser to assess. And then there were lots of documents that were also sent out around that. I know that they may not have been sent out again to council, but Michael Grant had requested some information on a records request, and I sent all that information out in a folder to all of council that was copied on that. So you all have that in your documents. It talks about the inspector's report, all of the other quotes that were received, any information that I had, the legislation that I had regarding that building should be in your email boxes.
Okay. Well, I will make sure that the appraisal is sent out to everyone on this committee. Just for the audience sake, I have been waiting on a meeting with Mr. Berry. I've spoken with Mr. Berry. Ms. Dukestein has obviously spoken with Mr. Berry, and I just have some questions that I want to make sure that all key players are at the table to ask so that we all hear the same question and answer at the same time. But
Shiva has also spoken with them,
nice.
and that's why I said that there is a hesitancy, and I'll talk to you later, and we can decide a pathway forward with it, and I can bring Shiva in on that conversation as well, so that you understand the risk we put the city at if we have to ask the right questions, is what I would say.
Okay. And that's why I think it's important that we're all at the table so that the correct questions are asked and we get the correct answers.
But may I just ask, who is Mr. Berry?
So Mr. Berry is the opera representative that works with us to figure out who, what, when, where, and why with these dollars. He's a very kind man, and he is not Hamilton County. He is in Columbus, Ohio.
He's with the state.
Yep. Stationed in Columbus, I believe. So, yeah. If there are any more questions about the 1500 building,
I was just going to go over the basic numbers.
I would love to hear your basic numbers. Thank you.
So sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I forgot to follow procedure. So just, I know Ms. Dukestein mentioned the appraisal a couple times, and just as a very, very, very high level, it's a very long, very detailed document. I would absolutely agree with that. But as a super high level, the market value for the 1500 building after $750,000 is put into it, the building is worth $920,000, and the land is worth $380,000. So that's just super high level information.
But, Madam President, So if you see in there, if you take the building completely off the land drops down to like 200 and some odd thousand, or maybe 300,000 at the most. So that's that. You have to ask yourself, is it the cost of tearing it down? It's gonna take away from the value of the land it is assessed together.
And can you remind us how much we paid for the 1500 building?
$0, and we owe nothing on it. And so
But we do owe on the Public Works building, right? I've asked that a couple times, and I don't think I've gotten that answer back.
So, and that's actually my fault. You sent a document to Ms. Shiva Stevens, not documenting or detailing the debt assessment. That debt assessment hasn't changed. So literally, if you look on the year, which is 2026, you can go across and then we're in that same space. We haven't had any additional dollars that we owe. So when I was looking at the document, she and I were looking at it together. The debt assessment hasn't changed for 1500.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
do we still owe anything on the roof?
So
No.
the roof was, the short answer is no. But can we isolate how the dollars were spent towards the roof? No, because we took out bonds, and whenever you do a bond, they wrap it all in one. And so we can't tell which bonds are from what, but based on the trajectory of when we were supposed to pay off and some of the bonds dropped off, we've already paid it off.
Okay.
It was supposed to be a 7-year bond for the roof. That was part of the council's agreement to do it.
Well, hearing no other community development questions, I am going to move on to Metro Now. Ms. Dukestein passed out a document for us to look at. Those who are watching online, I'm sorry you don't have a copy, but I will have Ms. Dukestein explain to us what's going on with Metro.
So the BTR or BRT line routes will come through North College Hill. I'm not sure how many we'll have, but they're just shortened routes. So Shiva and I were talking about this before. Her husband works for Metro. So if you've ever been a bus rider, they stop every couple miles or ever so often. These are accelerated routes. So a 90-minute bus trip, say for instance, if you were going from downtown to Pleasant Run Hill, which is further up Hamilton Avenue, it might take 90 minutes with all the stops. But these accelerated bus routes are shortened and condensed to encourage people to not use their cars, and they stop off maybe to go to our grocery store and get back on and then go to their designated route. So it's to encourage foot traffic. The bus routes will go through North College Hill, so they'll be traveling our roads, which becomes important to having like those pads that the buses stop on because they wear and tear there. Bus stops that potentially people going from downtown that offload at a larger stop here, and they may disperse, like park at our Kroger. Maybe they live in Finneytown and they park at this Kroger and then drive to Finneytown. So you have all of those different scenarios which would create BTR line routes in through North College Hill. And they're coming. I think we have 5 of them coming. So that's just the plan for now. I just wanted to share that as they shared that with us.
Okay, thank you. You began to say that routes that take 90 minutes will now take, but we didn't get there. So what?
Maybe 30, 40 minutes, because they only have, instead of 15 stops or 10 stops, now they maybe only have 3 or 4.
Okay. Is there anything from council that is needed?
No, just informative.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to old business, is there any old business that anybody wants to bring forward?
I have, Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a little bit of old business. I just wanted to know if we had an update on Veterans Park. And I know that, just to preface this, the requirements document didn't mention a due date. However, I do believe there's points penalties for if we take too long to finish the project, if we were to apply for funding again, because they remember that. And so I just want to know if, I know the previous discussion we had, we were waiting on the weather to break so that we could do the survey work and get the design specs to the state of Ohio. So I was just asking, where are we with that process?
So we are passing that on to our new recreational director. She's getting her feet acclimated with all of the documents and working on that as well. So the design work has not yet been sent to the state of Ohio, but we're working on it. She's about a month old.
Okay.
All right, and I did have one more question. And Mayor might remember this. Do you remember a couple of years back, we bought new park signs? And I was just wondering if there was an update on, actually, there won't be an update because this is probably belongs under new business, actually. I apologize.
No, it's okay. You can keep going.
No, I'll save it for new business.
Okay. Awesome. I have a question about Veterans Park, but I feel like that lives in budget and finance, so be ye aware. I will be asking later. Anybody else have old business?
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I have an update on the splash pad. I mean, I think that's old business because it's kind of been lingering. So the ARPA funds can be used on the splash pad. So one of the things that I've been doing is looking for additional quotes that might be a reduction from the quotes that we have experienced in the past. We had almost tripled the last set of quotes that we had gotten from our initial. I think our initial was, Mayor, you can quote me, or maybe Vim is clear, I think it was around $340,000, and it had gone all the way up to like 9 something. So we are definitely not prepared to pay $600,000 over and above what we had initially been quoted. And it was just, I'm not real sure what happened. I know I was on council, but I'm not real positive as to why we didn't move on it from the 250 all the way to get to the 9.
Madam Chair, I don't know if, it seemed like you were asking Mayor, but I kind of remember how that went down. This happened while I was rec director. So the issue was, because remember we had the person from Chicago come and talk to us about different options. However, what we discovered shortly after that was that block grant funding had been tied to the splash pad project. And if there was block grant funding tied, then we were required to use their packet to go to bid. And that is why we ended up with the $700,000 and $800,000 bids, because we were required to use that process. We could not use state contractors, state bid contractors. So the effort we tried to get rolling that summer was to detach the block grant funding from the splash pad for the purpose of allowing us to move forward with the state contract bid contractors. But that never transpired, and I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. So my question is, if we're looking at other quotes, have we confirmed that the block grant funding, and that might be the question for budget and finance, is no longer associated with that project, because that was the roadblock and it was out of our control. And that's why we tried so hard to get that funding moved to a different project. But that's probably a question for budget and finance, but that's how that went down, because we had to go to bid, and it was more expensive to go that route, obviously. And that was 2 or 3 years ago, that it was $800,000 through that route. Which is why we were initially looking. All the infrastructure is done. We're talking about the above ground stuff now. All the pipes are there. I think the only thing left was the electric and the concrete pad and the fixtures. So that was what was going to be. And they said we can't piecemeal it because of the way the original ask was to the block grant funding people. We couldn't piecemeal out different pieces of it. So I just wanted to know, maybe that's a budget and finance question, as if that grant funding is still tied to that project, or has it elapsed, or where are we with that? Because that was the issue. We were required to use the HUD bidding packet because it's HUD funding.
Ms. Claire, thank you. That was a good explanation. I didn't know that piece of information, so that makes that a little clearer for me. So I appreciate that.
So it hasn't e-funded, but we can, and it is still tied to that project. I spoke with her last weekend today about that. I would like to repurpose those dollars. I mean, if we could use that to support whatever efforts are going to be done. We have some ways we can repurpose it.
Right.
We
And
haven't
it
lost-
does require public hearings to repurpose it.
Yes, it
yeah.
does. Yes, it does.
did.
We had one, but we needed to make a decision and then have another one, and that second and third steps did not happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
the first one was informative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of those documents from the July 2024 public hearing are on the city website. They're all there.
Thank you. You did.
So we can use those dollars a myriad of different ways. Honestly, I was just waiting to see what you guys were doing with 1,500 because we can use it there. And that would add to a reduction of cost there.
Okay. Awesome. Any other old business? Old businesses? Moving on to new business.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask, this, I do think it's considered new business because this is like blindsiding both of you with this question. So, about the signs that were purchased, there were new park signs that we purchased, for all 6 of the city parks. And I know that we had some other priorities coming down the pike for public works and things like that. So they haven't been installed. So I just wanted to know if that could get on the radar screen, to
Ms. Clear.
potentially get those installed.
When were they purchased?
Oh, boy, it was prior to, it would have to have been in sometime in early 2024. I don't remember, but
Okay.
it was prior to Mr. Huffman parting ways with the city, which he did later that fall. So it would have been prior to that. Just, I don't know how much farther prior, but that's the benchmark in my head in terms of the timing but it would have been prior to that.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we will have to check with Public Works to ensure that they were ordered.
Oh, I physically saw them
Saw
in the
them,
Public Works
so
garage.
then
They're here. I picked them
They're
up.
in the garage then, because I know we also ordered some new street signs. So it's just a matter of getting those put out.
And from my point, I didn't know they
didn't
existed,
know.
so I will follow up.
That's why I'm like, this needs to be a new business because I blindsided you with that.
But I do have a new business. So,
Wait, can I hold you there just for a
Yep.
second? Because I'm going to piggyback off Ms. Clear. As I enter into North College Hill, coming off of Ronald Reagan, we do have a North College Hill sign, but it's kind of faded and it just needs a little bit of love. So I don't know if we can.
We've already talked about it.
Okay, cool. But also with that being said, we have an electric sign. There's a neighboring city that has a really nice sign. I was like, we got one. Why can't we put ours up? So I don't know if that is possible to have it where that one is, because there is electricity there. Just so that when people come into North College Hill, it's like, look at us.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
although I'm not opposed to that,
Mm-hmm.
not that it's not traditional, but the issue may be, because you have to tap in and remote to those in order to update them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we have, I'm not a computer person, so for instance, the server or whatever that would connect to it needs to be within a certain range. We don't have a building or anything there
Mm-hmm.
in order to tap into it, but I mean, not a
Madam
bad
Chair.
idea.
Yes, Ms. Sower.
I'm not a computer expert, but I have some experience. If someone could send me the model that we purchased, I can do some research and figure it out.
Ms. Dukestein can get that from. Public
I'm writing
Works.
it down.
Right.
Because I used to do the one at the high school. The office is there, the machine is there. The elementary is the same. Office is there, the machine is there,
Mm-hmm.
board office. So, yeah.
All righty.
Madam President,
Yes.
I have a question. Mayor, so do you all run it from the school board office or you run it from the high
Each
school?
building runs their own. So the high school runs the one
At the high school.
right there, the main one that you see on
Galbraith. The one that's on the wall at the elementary, they run that one, and the board office runs the one that's in
Theirs.
front.
Okay.
So
I was just trying to gauge how far they had to be.
they're right
Because
there.
I was like, well, maybe police and fire, or maybe Ben can swing by on a computer over there if we can get somebody, if it's, can be at the police station.
Mhm.
That's for a little bit closer than this building,
Yeah.
but
It is. I mean, it's not impossible. It's just a matter of, whatever you need in order to. But we are working on sprucing that sign up.
Okay.
Little
Little gray.
lot dated, not little lot.
Yes, yes, yes. So we have 5 minutes left, and I know, or I'm sorry, now 4 minutes left, and I know Ms. Dukestein had new business.
two real quick things. You'll see and I think I mentioned this in the council meeting, the sign in front of 1500 looks crazy right now, only because we're putting the new branding on there. It had the old Starburst. So any place I see it, if you see it, let me know, because I'm just trying to make sure that we get consistent. It's just sometimes it'll be randomly on a document. Let me know if you see it. We just want to make sure that we're consistent across the board and having the eyes and ears everywhere, if you guys could help with that. And then I think I shared with you all at the beginning of January, Clover Nook Center for the Blind had a new CEO, and that is why we got locked out of the park, because they decided not to continue our contract. So she and I have been in conversations back and forth, and she was supposed to be sending me over documents to access the easement that the city has with Clover Nook Center for the Blind, and lo and behold, when I got the email, there was a contract to continue renting the park. So I emailed her back and was like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Because we had talked about just accessing it for the easement. And she was like, yes, we're sure. And it was actually a reduction in cost by $500. I talked with Mayor about it, so I dropped the contract off to re-rent Pies Park so we can figure out what's next, because we have equipment in there.
Of course.
And so we were
have to
talking
use the
about
easement.
pulling our equipment and the easement, the legal easement that's there. So whenever they do their portion of the signing, we'll be back figuring out Pies Park. So
Okay. And that lock and that gate and dumping.
fun.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I know, just real quick, if I could, I know we have a meeting, but for the people who won't watch the next meeting, this is no longer a polling location.
Oh,
Right, there are only
good to know.
2 polling locations in the city of North College Hill now. It's Life Springs Church and it's Journeys. So
Thank
this
you.
is no longer a polling location. I just wanted to say that in case someone watches tonight and don't get to watch the next meeting.
Correct. And
the
the election is what day?
I don't know.
The
5th,
5th or the
May
4th.
Sorry, I should just
My
say.
calendar runs Monday, so I don't, whatever the
Okay.
first Tuesday is.
Yeah.
May the 5th.
May 5th. Alrighty, well,
Right.
I don't have anything else, and we are going to adjourn our meeting at 6:59, 1 minute early, Shelby. Thank you.
And we are going to begin the Budget and Finance meeting for Monday, April 27th, 2026. It is, I already said this, 7:01. We have everyone in attendance. There were minutes sent out for February. Those got amended. And then we have the minutes for March. Did everyone have a chance to look at those? And did anyone have any problems with them? Can we accept them?
Yes.
All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
regarding the minutes, I'm going to restate, because it was clarified that 101 is a department and not a fund is not an accurate statement. What my statement was is that not all departments are funds, some funds are departments, some things that were listed as funds are departments. So 101, the first one, the first part of the account number is a fund. So every first 3 digits of an account number represents a fund. And then the second 3 digits of said account number represents the department. I wanted to clarify because when you read your reporting, there's a fund report which lists 3 digits. I needed to make sure we understood what those 3 digits, where they came from as it relates to the account numbers, so that you are aware of what you're looking at.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, at this point, I would like to move on to the monthly finance reports. Ms. Stevens not?
You all have both, you have both packets, that's both months, February and for March. As I promised that we would get to be in current and only 1 month behind. In reading the reporting, did anyone have any questions, thoughts, or concerns? We're all educated, no need for me to read the reports to you.
I did not. Did any other members of the committee? That thunder is kicking out there.
My plants are saying thank you, and my water bill is too. So.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Stugstein.
I had a question for Ms. Sheila. So I noticed, and I just want to make sure for my own keeping and reporting, when I look at the documents, our general fund has dropped just a bit, but I know that we are anticipating in July a big dump from our, well, not a big dump, but
Actually,
a dump.
April.
Okay, for our taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because I look back at last year's, I'm like, it's the same, but I just,
Yes.
it makes me nervous.
The first payment for counties from the county, the big payment comes in April and in September. It's off. So yeah, so April you will see all of the levies and those items. That first payment for the year will
So that's
post.
the property taxes.
Mhm.
When do
And the levy dollars.
when do the RETA income tax dollars
I think
hit?
that comes in
RETA
July.
comes in monthly.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a RETA deposit every month. There's one at the beginning of the month, and then there's a reconciliation at the end of the month.
but we don't get a big chunk from like the April the 15th?
Mm-mm. It's just always there. It's always reconciling. People are always paying, because you got to remember a lot of our taxes is payroll taxes, and payroll taxes are paid monthly. They don't wait till, and so April 15th is a reconciliation time. So for people who've been paying all year, there's no additional dollars coming from them.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curitan.
thank you so much. So, Mrs. Stevens, can you confirm maybe a little bit on that same topic of RETA? If RETA has a due date of April the 15th, we're not getting a bulk payment after? Similar to how the IRS, the payments are due by the 15th, your filings have to be done by the 15th. We're not getting a big dump?
You shouldn't anticipate one. If we were getting a big dump after April 15th, then that means that people are not paying their taxes all year long.
So that's my point, because and Madam Chair, forgive me. So I believe that we issued the subpoenas a while ago because people were not paying their taxes in the city. So when does that big dump occur?
So let's make sure we recognize the purpose of the subpoena program. The subpoena program is very specific about being a non-filer. And so the only people that urged to move forward are people who had not filed their taxes for years. But let's say we'll use the city of North College Hill as an example. Every employee that works in the city of North College Hill pays North College Hill taxes. At the end of every month, I file a report with RETA paying our North College Hill taxes. So let's just use January as an example. At the end of January, I filed a report. I paid all withholding taxes for the month of January. In the month of February, we got our money back. So you are getting, so Rita, the filing deadline is a filing deadline. There should not be a narrative that says, ooh, when everybody files, we get money, because filing is just a reconciliation, just like with the Internal Revenue Service. If you've done it properly, when you file your taxes, you hopefully break even. There's no big amount of money coming unless there's a refund component.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'll save this topic for new businesses. It's not part of the agenda, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions regarding the monthly finance reports? All right, hearing none, we will move on. We are going to look at the fuel gas logs again, just for a little bit, to talk about the total fuel cost for Q1 2026. Was administration able to pull those kind of numbers for us?
So I do have the fuel costs for Q1. I don't have the logs, but I do have the fuel costs for Q1, which you will also see in your reporting, because fuel costs is on its own line item. So for fire equipment for Q1, actually it's actually through 4/27, because we did just enter an invoice. We've spent $5,751, and that's for fire equipment, which is Fund 211, Department 102. Then for Public Works, which is Fund 201, Department 201, we've spent the same amount, because again, we've spoken about how we allocate percentage-wise for every bill. And then for the police, because they have the heavier lift as it relates to certain fuel, especially unleaded fuel, we've spent $9,534. So as of the end of April 4/27, we have spent a total of about $38, which almost half of that is the police.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, 1 second. Ms. Stevens, could you tell me the line item for the PD?
PD is I don't think I said it. I do apologize. Let me get over here. The levy actually pays, so it's 301, Fund 301, Department 101.
Thank you.
524210 is the account number, and that's going to be the same for every department and every fund.
Thank you. Ms. Carrington.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And for code enforcement, do they fall under the police or?
No, I do them at the end of the year, because he doesn't use a lot. Like literally, he fills up maybe once every 3 weeks. It's immaterial at this moment. Those dollars will be allocated at the end of the year. He doesn't take his car home. He drives around 2 square miles. So
Madam President, again, how many employees actually take their cars home?
1, 2, 3.
3.
3. There are 2 police officers and 1 Public Works.
Oh, and that will be
Oh, and now it'll be 4 at the fire.
Fire takes a car home?
Now he has 1 now.
The chief?
Mm-hmm.
And Madam Chair, just wanted to also ask on the fuel, how frequently are we paying this vendor?
When they deliver.
Okay. On demand, okay.
Yeah.
And on this topic of fuel, I was hoping we would have done a comparison between Q1 of 2025 and Q1 of 2026 to know if there were any variances. I presume there would be, but now because our police department is now fully, for the most part, fully staffed. So do you potentially have a number of how much fuel we spent Q1 2025? A
No.
roundabout guesstimate?
Have no idea. Didn't even look.
Okay. Is that something that you are able to access for our June meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Could I ask the
May?
question a different way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, May.
I think because we all know gas prices are skyrocketing. Could
You're looking
we
for
com-
gallons.
Gallons, yes.
I
Could we
am,
compare
yes.
gallons versus dollars?
I would anticipate, I can definitely compare gallons. I would anticipate it would have increased. It's just a natural. So what I do, I compare trends. So if it's within a normal, if it's not exorbitant, you give it some time to balance and go, okay, we're fine. Is the way that should be managed. Probably is the way that historically how I manage that. So let's, and then you look at weather. So Q1 of 2025, did we have bad weather? Because if we had bad weather, then we probably didn't drive as much. So those are extenuating circumstances. But I definitely look at trends overall to make sure that we're within historical guidelines, or not guidelines, historical practices.
Sure, that
Madam
makes sense.
President.
I want to back up for a quick second. The whole list of bringing home cars, I think I messed up my notes here. I have 2 PD, 1 fire chief, and who was the other one?
Public Works.
No.
He doesn't take it home.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
What would be the purpose of, excuse me, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
It's a perk, okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Stokestein, did you have a question?
I was just going to say you're excited and happy to have those officers seen on the streets, which means they're driving more. So in the spirit of Ms. Stevens not talking about trends, when they're out more, they're driving more. So just know that's a part of it.
I've been seeing them sitting still a lot, like in the church parking lot, the dry cleaners, and
I even saw one of them with a
Driving.
radar gun on Hamilton Avenue, pointing it towards me.
no excuses. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, I was
I
just.
just wanted to confirm, are we in contract with the vendor for the fuel? No, okay.
But nobody else is going to provide fuel for a small vendor. We got fired by Likens, so Wardway is the only one that's going to provide the fuel. We're too small.
All right. Any other questions on the gas subject? Perfect. I left the fireproof file cabinets on the agenda because I didn't remember if we came to a final decision. Did we? And if so, do we have to appropriate funds to buy them? Where are we going with that?
Madam President,
Yes.
I believe Jillian was going to look for the ones that were purchased, decipher whether or not they were, if you needed more, and then go from there. And I don't know where she is, so you may want to ask about that in the next council meeting.
I
Or
will follow up with the clerk then. Thank you so much. All right, and then the next on our agenda is the debt service. And I know in the previous meeting, Ms. Stokestein said it didn't change, so this was still valid numbers. But I guess I don't like these numbers. From the perspective of it, according to this document, it looks like we're not paying on the principal at all. We're only paying on the interest. Is that?
For the bond,
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry. Got a little too It says for the Public Works Building from 2025 until 2030. So for 5 years, we're only paying the interest and not paying on the principal?
hold on, where my one little piece of paper? I don't think that reads right.
No, I think
I hope it doesn't. I hope this
I
is.
think
So-
there's a principal payment once a year, and there's 2 interest payments.
So that's the payment we're making is the 20,000.
Correct. There's a principal payment
I see.
and 2
Okay.
interest payments.
All right.
It's how that happens.
Okay.
And it's super low interest, just to be honest. The only thing lower is our OPWC loan, which is 0 interest.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, it doesn't it doesn't tell me what is left, what the balance is.
So
And I guess that's kind of what I was looking for. How much debt are we still in for the Public Works building?
for that particular building?
Yes, ma'am.
That must be the one piece of paper I left on my desk.
Here, it's right here.
Yes, what I got, it's like one, 'cause I just saw it, I have a 125, I think. Is this an Excel spreadsheet? No. Okay, let me go grab mine off my desk, because mine's an Excel.
All right, thank you. I forget that this is touchscreen.
Just for reference, if you wanted to calculate it, you could take the principal and the interest and add it up from the year we are in, just on a rough estimate. That will show you. It's not necessarily the payoff, because if you were doing it from a payoff, you wouldn't include the interest because we would pay it off early. But if you were looking to see what we owed over time, that's how you calculate those two numbers.
Find it later. I think it's 125, because it's $20,000 a year. It matures in,
explaining that.
yeah, it matures in 31. So I want to say it's about 125.
So let's see, 20, 30, 20, 40,
It's one piece of
60, 80,
But I'm so organized.
105. So
That's
it's 105 in just principal, and then
About
6,
18,000 in
10.
interest.
13, 16, 18, 19. And so, yeah, she's actually right on. It's 105 in principal and about $20,000 in interest. So that's a 125.
Yep.
And I just did rough estimation. Do not.
I'm a fan of that piece of paper tomorrow. I'll be so aggravated.
All right, so along those lines, I thought, I could be wrong, but I thought we were making payments on a fire truck too. Are we not?
Yes. But you asked about the,
I did.
okay.
Now I'm expanding. Not trying to put you on the spot.
Oh, I
But if we could
anticipated the
get-
spot.
But if we could get maybe a list of all of the kind of loans or whatever bonds, whatever we have that we're making a monthly payment on, a yearly payment on, whatever kind of payment on. If we could get a list of those, I'd be very curious to know what we still are paying on, like the fire trucks. Are we still paying on an ambulance too?
Yep.
Is there anything else I'm not asking you that you know?
Cars, police cars.
Police cars.
How many?
2. And our streets. LPWC.
How many streets?
1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 street projects
One coming.
and 1 coming.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms.
just a
Cureton.
point of reference, on your agenda 4B is the gasoline tank meter discussion.
No.
So I'm not sure if you wanted to
I
backtrack.
skipped right over it, sorry.
There it is.
Or does anyone else have any questions about debt service, or is this something that just only I care about? No one? All right, we'll move off of that. Can we go back up to the gas tank meter discussion that I completely skipped over? I apologize. Whoops, the daisy. Ms. Cureton, did you have a specific question about that?
I believe that we talked about this in the February and March Budget and Finance Committee meetings, and we wanted to just make sure that we can preserve the fuel that we're expending. $20,000 and fuel is going up is a lot of money, and so we talked about making sure, and I believe it's something that We don't want to micromanage or kind of nitpick at it, but we want to make sure that we're allocating funds appropriately. So can we revisit the discussion on what measures are currently in place to ensure that only those who should be fueling are fueling, and then we can pivot from there? So I'm going to pose that question to you, Ms. Dukestein.
We log the fuel. I mean, there's typically someone back there. The police cars are allowed to fuel. The fire and EMS vehicles are allowed to fuel. And then those that have personal vehicles are allowed to fuel.
And when you say that there's someone back there, are you presuming that's Public Works or a police officer or?
It's Public Works, so when the tow trucks go back there, they're escorted back there by the police. They're not allowed to go back there by themselves. And then Public Works they're back there.
Is there not ever a time there's not anyone back there?
Yeah, but it has a latch on it. I mean, they can't just pull up and pump.
Okay, so that was my original question. What measures do we currently have? And there's a lack and a lock. Is there something on there that requires a code, a key, that limits accessibility only to those who are?
I know that there's something on there that limits accessibility, but what that tool is, I'm not sure. I can ask and bring that back. But we can tell by the numbers, like I said, when you look at the fuel costs, it's so minimal, the raise and the trends, that it's very little. I think people are being earnest.
So I believe we had this discussion, and I would hope that every employee of the city works in earnesty and transparency, and they would not do anything. But however, in the event that is the case, and again, I don't think that's the case, but just to ensure that we kind of move on a trend of elevating our security of our city, not just digitally, but also publicly. And I think that we might want to consider a gas meter there. That was part of our discussion previously. And I think that mimics what other neighboring cities our size would have in place as well. So is that something that you can research that cost and bring that back to us for our May meeting?
I think that is an administrative decision. I don't think that our fuel cost has elevated enough for us to be looking into that. As I said it in our previous conversation about that, at this time, we have so many other needs that are more hierarchical than that. We need a timekeeping system for Public Works, and we're working to get that done. So, I think as we develop and get some of our other needs taken care of, that we can put that back on our list. But for now, I really think that we're in a healthy space with our fuel. I think Shiva can kind of give her sentiments, and she looks at it roughly in comparison. On a regular basis. I mean, I sign the checks. I'm looking at it from month to month and looking to make sure that we're not having any significant increases. I'm looking at the fuel logs that are submitted.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair. Yes, Ms. Gaston.
I hear you, but could we still just see what it looks like? Can we do the research and just bring it back so that we have the information? And then if you decide not to go with it, at least we would have the information to know if it's a good idea or not, so on and so forth.
In terms of costs, is that what you were wanting to know?
Yeah, cost, if it's a true benefit to our city, things like that. We have a lot of moving pieces, but I think that if we just start piecemealing things together just so that our city can grow and be the best it can be, that'll be great. Just a little research to see if it would benefit.
And so I'm not opposed to the research, but I think if you will recall the conversation that even Ms. Curtin brought up before, it will require us to put electricity there.
Mm-hmm.
And that adds into running a line. We don't have a fire hydrant back there. So again, that's why I don't have an issue with looking at the cost. But if you're looking at the cost, you have to add so many more things into, it's not just the cost of the meter, it's going to be what it costs to support the meter. And I think the meter is probably not that expensive. I think the electrical lines and making sure that if we're going to put electrical line close to a gas line, that we also have a fire hydrant back there. And then that's when our major cost comes in. So I would like to focus on getting the other tangibles in place and then getting the meter in there.
I wonder if there's a solar option.
Okay? I can look into
Good
that
idea.
for sure.
Very smart.
Ms. Stevens-Dye, I believe you're next.
I did. I just wanted to make sure to kind of shape the narrative around the cost of fuel. We do not pay retail for fuel. We pay $2 a gallon, $1.95, $2.50, and $2.50 is the diesel. So just so we're not, I don't want us to have retail constituent eyes on our fuel.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Yes.
That's an excellent point because I assumed it was retail. So that means, well, maybe I should ask this question. Has there been a variance in the cost for the wholesale pricing? Because typically when you buy wholesale, it stays the same with very, very, very little fluctuation.
Very minimal fluctuation,
good.
like cents, maybe 10 cents here, 8 cents there.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Susie.
which is why it's so easy to look at the trend to decipher if it's gone up. I mean, even a $40, somebody filling up a car a couple times in a quarter, or I think the last time we get the bill, it's like every two or 3 months, isn't it?
Our bill?
Yeah,
It's about quarterly.
yeah.
It's about quarterly. As a matter of fact, as a case in point of the watching, Erin Marie called. She says, "Why do we have a bill? It looks like you came 2 days in a row. Why were you here 2 days in a row?" Because that was unusual. That's outside of their cadence, and this is something that we're monitoring. And they let her know you were accurate. We ran out of fuel that day, so we had to come back the next day to finish the job. But these are things that are part of our normal cadence of paying attention. Should be quarterly. Why is it, every 3 weeks? If, that would be an immediate red flag and there must be a leak or something's on fire. But these are just the simple things that we monitor.
Is it safe to assume we didn't get a delivery charge then?
We don't get
Second.
delivery charge.
That's even better.
And we don't, again, pay
Pay
taxes.
All
We
right.
don't pay taxes on our fuel.
All right, can we move on from fuel again? This time I will have it buttoned up. Sorry about that.
Remove it.
That's it. Hey, we might get out of here on time.
That's what I was thinking.
I know. I'm so excited. All right, next on the agenda is a resolution to certify some assessments on 4 properties to place on the tax duplicate. This is pretty routine. Does anyone have any questions, or does anyone have any issue with us moving this to council floor?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Curatan.
just a point of clarification. For 2 of the addresses that are listed, is it because, so being new, let me not assume that, did we only abate trash, or was there something else with the properties? Because I realized one of the addresses is Family Dollar and the other is the Dollar Tree. So I want to have an understanding of what exactly occurred.
Trash.
Yeah, like we pulled in Junk King to get it all cleaned up.
Because we kept asking them, and typically our public works will respond to those kinds of things, but they were at capacity. So at some point, we want to see our city clean, so we clean it up for you, and you get to pay for it.
And so I presume this was under code enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you recall, do you know, was he able to successfully reach the owners of these businesses
Mm-hmm.
who actually own the land, not the company?
So it depends in each situation. Some, even if they only own the building or are leasing the building, if their lease agreement dictates that they have to clean up the property, and that is the case with Dollar Tree, then we contacted management. I went in personally and talked to management behind Mr. Wallace just to make sure, not that I have any loss of confidence in his ability to communicate or him delivering the notices. However, we had kind of just been giving them grace, and then grace had just exhausted. And then the other was General Dollar.
Family Dollar.
Family Dollar. Yeah,
Family.
all the dollars.
Yeah.
So they all have issues. So, yeah. And then, I mean, that one is so easy because all of us ride into work and we're looking over there every day, talking to them. I could tell you Mr. Wallace is super committed. Like sometimes he's like, I'm just go over there and pick it up, Ms. Dugasine. And I'm like, that's fine, but you still got to tell them that they need to pick their stuff up. So, yes, I do know that he's confirmed to talk to whatever responsible party.
And then, Madam Chair,
Yes.
for 1917 Acorn, what was the abatement? What kind of
All
trash?
of these are trash.
So are we talking about bags left at the curb? Are we talking mattresses? Are we talking furniture?
Heavy bulk items, things that are in excess, like,
And I can speak to, because I think you're looking at the amount. So we got to understand, like with mattresses, if they're not wrapped, then they can't be taken. And we got to think about all the weather and stuff. So this was like probably, if I remember, because I'm right here, and I believe it was something similar, some simple like that, like a mattress or a couch that needed to be abated, and they just didn't have the ability to wrap it for then Rumpke to come get it. Because if you wrap it and you call Rumpke, they'll get it, but you have to wrap it. And so if we have to abate it, that means it wasn't able to be put into the manner to be picked up by Rumpke.
Madam President,
And if I
or,
can,
sorry, Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Chichester.
I have a question. Were any of these residents disabled or disabled vets or senior citizens or people who could not have?
actually, Mr. Wallace does check for that because we have some outsourcing that we can do. Even we'll circle back and just wait on Public Works to do it.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
So we're not trying to over-exasperate people. These are just very egregious individuals or businesses that don't follow up.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gaston.
when you said that, it jogged a question in my head. So what does that process look like? So when there is a property that needs to be abated, whether it's the grass, trash, or whatever else is going on, do you get a warning first? Do you get a notice? What does that process look like?
Yes, you get a warning, which is the first level, like, hey, this looking a little high, or if it's grass and you need to cut it, then it comes back in 5 days to reassess whether or not you have remediated whatever violation. And then, to be honest, Mr. Wallace actually gives another one, but our code says that you should take action. So typically, depending on how egregious the violation is, he will give another kind of warning. If it's very egregious, and then he won't. And then that, according to the law, that is up to his discretion. So there are 2 pathways. I'm going to stick to grass, because grass
Sounds
is
good.
handled one way, and then trash and other abatements are handled another way. And then once he comes back in 5 days, takes pictures, and it has not been remediated, then, and that's 5 days from the warning, then he will dispatch that to the contractor that we have that goes around and cuts grass. And then that's when we do the tall grass assessment. That's typically comes before council as well. And so once you have violated and had to have remediated by the contractor one time, our North College Hill legislation states that you can just, at that point, is if you become a repeat offender, they can just keep cutting it when he comes by and he sees that there is not, your grass is not, it's high or tall, then he can just dispatch again.
Okay.
As it pertains to trash or like building maintenance, like a fallen gutter, in those instances, 30 days is given. And so, so that should help you speak to how significant the trash would have to be for us to respond to the trash, and also building maintenance.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Carrier?
So just to speak to that, and thank you for bringing it up, Ms. Chichester, because there are some seniors, more than a few in our community, and I'm looking at one of the addresses that are here on the trash tax assessment, and it's owned by VB1, which is Vinebrook. Are we struggling to find a point of contact at Vinebrook? We have a point of contact at Vinebrook, and that point of contact is non-responding. What is the process?
They'll pick up the phone.
They have a lot of properties here. Yeah.
They will pick up the phone, they'll answer, they'll commit to coming out, we'll wait. And then if they don't, then we abate ourselves.
Madam Chair.
And then let me also clarify the question as well. Part B, you said that if they are repeat offenders, we just go and continue to abate
Yeah, so.
with no notice?
Not past that first remediation.
Is there an attempt to re-engage with that resident and or that renter or homeowner?
So again, that's at the discretion of our code enforcement officer per our own internal codes, which were here long before him. However, he does try to re-engage. So some of those complaints that you got last year, I remember specifically there was one on Oak Knoll, and that was, if you look at the track, it's just constant engagement. Even after the remediation, it was another complaint, and usually that is, the complaints are per the neighbors, and so he is very considerate of people, I would say.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Chichester?
I was going to say I have a couple of those properties on my street, and typically it is the tenant's responsibility to maintain the lawn and not the Vinebrook company. So it depends on if it's rented or not for those properties, just a FYI.
Madam Chair.
Well, but the other side of that is this is going to be on the owner.
Right, the owner.
This isn't
Yeah.
on the renter.
Right,
Yeah.
Well,
right.
so ultimately, just to speak to what Ms. Zorb is saying, if you will allow me, I'm sorry, Madam Zorb, Ms. President Zorb.
Whatever title you want to give me
Listen,
tonight.
whatever, Madam Zorb, President Zorb. So you're right that they do put that in the lease, but ultimately it's their responsibility to
Absolutely.
keep their property. So if their tenant isn't keeping their property, then they need to do the due diligence to get their tenant to remediate the property.
They have the
And-
ultimate responsibility.
Absolutely.
End of the line. All right. Again, does anyone on council see a reason to not push this through? Nope. All right. Sorry, Ms. Stevens, I thought we were cooking. We
I
stalled out
know,
for a
and then
minute.
we just
I'm
like
sorry.
went off the rails.
No. All right, number 8, a revenue report for the rental of the senior center for 2024, 2025, and 2026. Do we,
And actually, I would like to apologize. Ms. Shiva Stevens not sent that to me. I failed to send that to you again, because remember I told you I
In
sent
your outbox
the,
again?
Yes. And so
all right,
it was all attached in that initial email to you. And then when that one didn't go through, I just got frazzled and I started sending things to you individually. So I missed that. But she did prepare that.
So I must have missed 2024, even though I don't know that I would trust those numbers. So I wouldn't give them to you anyway. But for 2025, for the entire year was $4,800. And for 2026, so far, so we're at the end of April, we're at $2,475. So we're already over half of what we did for 2025.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gaston?
can you repeat 2025 one more time?
4,800.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Curitan?
do you have the number of rentals that have occurred so far in 2026 and then those that were from 2025?
The number or no, I
The
just
number
have
of rentals.
I don't keep, I just have how much money.
Okay. Ms. Dukestein, would you happen to know the number of contracts?
I can look through my email to look and see how many were approved. I can get that, I think.
We've been cooking in Q1.
Yeah, we have.
We've been cooking.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Gaston, can you hold 1 second? Because if I don't say this, I'll forget it. Yep, I waited too long.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Gaston. I knew it.
Sorry.
Gotta start writing
To
myself.
rent, the senior center is 300 or 350
350.
350 plus a deposit.
plus a deposit. So if we do 350 divided by the numbers you gave us, that'll tell us
About roughly, because
Some of
we
the
have had a
deposits we
couple
kept.
we have had a couple who paid for extra hour because there's
Okay.
additional cost. So, but roughly, yes, that would get you to roughly the number. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
It came back to me.
Good.
What does it cost us, the city, to do? Like,
What's our net profit?
does
Mm-hmm.
it cost us, like, do we have to pay extra cleaning? Do we have to put stock a refrigerator? Do we do anything to prepare or pick up afterwards
So
for a rental?
Yes and no. So we've arranged our cleaning to respond around any rentals on the weekend. We will pay for example, if we have a rental on Saturday and then another on Friday, we will pay for an additional cleaning, which is about $150. And then that's split between those two rentals, depending on how and the length of time that they rent. And typically, the way our rental is set up, if we clean on a Wednesday, which we do clean on Wednesday, we don't clean again just for the rental on Friday. We just make sure that the room is set up the way that it is requested. Ms. Colleen is the one who makes sure that the tablecloths are clean and put out. And she's already doing that with her senior services. So we really don't have any extra costs unless we have a spill or, I know there have been times where you come in here and the floors are sticky and there's something stuck. That isn't actually as a result of the rental agreements. That we had some cleaners that really weren't following up, so we have the same company, but we have a new person that is dispersed from that cleaner, and we're very happy with what that new cleaner has been doing. So when you were seeing the building kind of looking not as clean as it should have been, that was based on the cleaning company.
Madam President,
Ms. Curitan?
so looking at the numbers from 2025, we received 4,800, but what was our actual net profit after everything was paid for?
So I did talk to Ms. Stevens. That is our net.
Oh, good, okay. And then also,
Hang on. Ms.
It's not
Curitan.
wrong. I just want to make sure I understand your question. What are you really
She's
asking?
asking how
Sure.
much money we made.
so if we received $4,800 in 2025 to rent this facility, we had to pay cleaners, potentially there was additional cleaning, like when we had that big spill on the floor,
So
or potentially if there's any additional cost that we incur for renting this out. I believe also there was a person that had to be staffed to open up and lock up. I believe there was also there was something with the trash. So all of our costs that we incur after our rental, what is our net profit?
Okay, so we currently do not track per event. And any additional costs, i.e. cleaning for spill, let's say, would come out of the deposit. So, because the deposit is refundable provided that you return our building to us the way we gave it to you. So if you don't do that, then it comes out of the deposit. So there was no additional costs associated with that. We've established our cleaning schedule so that it's not specific to the events, it's specific to the building. So we split the cost of maintaining the building for rentals between recreation and senior. So that's how the income is recorded. Half of it goes to senior, half of it goes to recreation. And then the expenses allocated accordingly. Gas, we don't charge humans to events. We don't do that. So no bins, 2 hours of bins time is not being charged to an event. That's not how we are currently allocating our costs. So that $4,800 is a true representation of this is the income that was received for renting this building, because the other costs become immaterial because we do too much in the building.
And is that also applicable for the opening and closing of this building?
Well, the opening and the closing is done electronically because if you are a renter, you sign a contract and you get a code. So you open yourself and you close yourself. And then we have cameras that are monitoring. So there's no need for a human to be present to actually open the door.
And we do have hiccups sometimes, and I'm the person on call. Usually I'll respond. Or mayor, sometimes.
I mean, we all live around here, so
Yeah.
go let somebody in.
There's only been one incident where Ben was called on the weekend, and he had to come in. It was actually it was that time those people came to the McShell and they came behind the building. So he actually responded to something that was a renter issue because he had to come in for the police. But I was on my way coming. Mayor, sometimes they'll have her information. They'll call her directly. She's responded to weekends. I'll come up and help them for whatever they need.
All right. Next, we have old business.
Look at God.
Let's get the council meetings going.
So, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Curitan?
Thank you. So a couple of things on old business. I just want to get a little bit of clarification back to Rita. So want to find out from you, Ms. Stevens-Knott, how much have we recovered this year? And I won't even limit it to 2026. How much have we recovered, if you know that number?
I reported on that last month.
Okay, so let me clarify. How much have we recovered in the month of April?
I don't know April's numbers yet. It's April 27th.
Okay.
That reporting doesn't show up until the end of the month.
So has Rita sent us the money yet this month?
Yes, but the reporting is something that I pull at the end of the month.
Okay.
Madam President.
Ms. Curitan, do you have another question?
I do, but I'll let her go.
Okay.
I was just going to say, I don't know if you remember, we talked about it was about 140,000.
I do.
Okay.
I thought that was a one-time. I didn't think that was every single time we got money.
It's not every time.
Hold on.
Time we got money.
Is your question how much do we get from Rita on the average every month?
That is it, yes.
Okay, you do know that's in our reports?
I do. However, the report doesn't tell you how many residents. So if we go back just a little bit, we talked about the subpoenas, right? And I believe that there was one point in time when we were doing a hefty subpoena push. I'm not sure if we're still.
I think you're rolling two things together, and I want to be clear that we separate these two items.
We do, yes, we do.
Okay.
And it's clear.
I was like, Rita's monthly is good old fashioned. I get paid. I pay my taxes quarterly because I have a business. I pay
That's not who I'm referring to.
So my point is my reporting on a monthly basis is just that. So we don't get reporting about the subpoena program and the non-filer program. That's a once a year report.
Got it. Okay. So thank you. I assumed that we received that information. So looking at this quantitatively, if we only receive that information one time a year, When do we receive it, and how do we know how effective it is? Because I presumed that when we did those subpoenas, there was a rapid response, rapid payment, and a big win for the city. So how are we measuring the effectiveness of that particular program?
Based on the report, i.e., the report tells us when this assessment happened, it was this amount of money that was made of it that we believed was due. Based on us doing, the first part is the non-filer, because I want to make sure we realize there's 2 steps to it. There's the non-filer program, which is what we've been doing since we've been with Rita every year. That is not new. However, it did not render as big of a response until we added the subpoena program to it. So this is our first year with the subpoena program. We got our initial reporting, and next year around this time, we'll get that reporting again about the additional dollars, what was identified, which is, this is historical money. It's not going to be new money.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's
Still money.
historical dollars
Sure.
of what those historical dollars are rendering to us. The hope is that since we've let the citizens know that we expect you to pay your taxes on time and we expect you to file every year, that we won't have a need for a subpoena program the next time it comes around, because we will have trained our citizens to pay their taxes timely, which would then translate to our monthly payments going up because people are filing and paying timely.
And the reporting that you're getting from Rita, is it per their request of the report that only comes yearly, or is it just something that we've accepted?
This is our first year with it. I haven't asked for it any other time. We've never done the subpoena program before. I'm sorry, we've never done the subpoena program before. We've always had the opportunity to do the non-filer program, but that also requires a piece of paper signed and sent over to Rita. I don't have records showing that it was done.
Is there a way, and not to add any more work to your load, is there a way that we can do a Q1 analysis of the effectiveness of the subpoena program, just to maybe see? And if not, no pressure. However,
I'm just
curious.
asking, I don't know that that's a fair request. Why are we not valuing that we learned, because actually it's only 6 months. We learned the effectiveness of this program in 6 months. It wasn't
No, not its effectiveness, how effective it is. So for example, were you able to, was the city able to target 100 people and 50 responded, target 200 and 150 responded? What's our response data that shows that people actually are responding?
So the report showed that we sent out 3,785 non-filer.
Okay.
Which was $1 each.
Right.
Sure.
Non-filer is free.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then it showed we sent out 3,000 and something subpoenas,
Okay.
which was the $1. Okay. And then it showed from the non-filer program, we identified this amount of money that we were owed, and this is how much was collected in 6 months. Then it also showed for the subpoena program, this is how much money was identified that was owed to us, and this is how much we collected in 6 months. So it wasn't even a year.
Okay.
So I don't know that it's not going to be another report in another 6 months. I think that I would anticipate it's an ongoing reporting program, but I doubt that it's a monthly reporting, because it requires extra layers of human capital. People have to go to court. People have to negotiate. Other people are filing bankruptcy. So the court system doesn't move quickly. And I think that we might not get the information we're looking at, but we've definitely immediately seen a return on investment. We invested $3,785 and we collected over $100,000. We've immediately seen an ROI. And that should it should go down, because we are training our citizens, pay your taxes. And so I would hope that it would go down,
Okay.
and that we
Fair.
won't need that program with Rita.
Fair enough.
But we always have it in our back pocket.
But we got it in our back pocket.
Which, Madam Chair, I just have
Yep.
more new business. Thank
Yep.
you.
We're in old.
Oh, excuse me, old business. Forgive
Yep.
me. Yes, I do have additional old business.
We got-
Were were we able to get an update on the rental registrations for the city? That's inclusive of the list and those who have paid, and then more so those who have not.
So the rental registrations come by way of legislation. So we're in the lieu of preparing that legislation and putting that before the Budget and Finance Committee.
Would that be for 2026 or backdating?
It's for 2026.
So what about 2025?
The 2025 has already been legislatively passed through.
Yeah, so that was my question. How much have we received?
I don't know. I have to look.
Okay. And when you look at that, can you identify the number of rentals? And then, let me say it this way, the number of rental properties, and then the total that we receive for 2025 on those rental registrations. And if there are any, those who maybe did not pay, what steps do we take to ensure that those property owners pay them, if there is a
So
process in place?
the way that the process goes is we send out the letters to all of the property owners or the landlords, and then they are required to pay. So the number that I would be reporting back to you in terms of those that are the monies that we collected, those are the paying landlords. When we circulate the piece of legislation, that legislation is to put a lien against the properties of those who have not paid.
Yep.
It's
So-
essentially this assessment right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So,
but it's for the rental registration.
right. So if we look back legislatively at the tax assessment for 2025, I don't see a lot of addresses on there, which kind of leads me to believe, I don't know if we really encumbered if we really got every single rental property in our city, which is leaving dollars on the table.
So we do our best to make sure that landlords register. We have a bunch of different sources that we use to collect the landlord information. But there is a very healthy list of rental registration. I mean,
Definitely.
it's pages of 80. It's long.
Can I
So-
give you the line item on the revenue report?
Absolutely.
The line item is 101
Mm-hmm.
000
Mm-hmm.
416 300. And as of today, we've collected $43,200. That's as of the end of March.
And
So,
that's
I don't know if that
$150.
So Madam Chair, I wouldn't know if that number is high or low because we
We
don't have a number.
budgeted 80,000.
Again, even though we budgeted 80,000, I don't know if we budgeted high or
We
low.
budget based on history. So that's what I'm saying. So because that's part of our revenue budget. I have to give us a realistic number in order to manage our budget. That's a trend number, escalating. I mean, ticking up a little bit, but not much.
So we're saying on average about 500 renters in our community, on average, give or take. And we receive 50% of those renters, their registration fee. So Ms. Tugstein, what is our process similar to how we are assessing liens on properties for trash, what are we doing to ensure that every owner of a property in our community that they rent out, they pay their fee?
So we have to know that they're actually renting, and that's what we do. We look. There's a bunch of different avenues. For example, they're required to register. One of the things we talked about to kind of broaden that requirement or understanding that when you move here is that you put it in your welcome baskets. But for now, we go by legacy information, and anything that we hear, like our code enforcement, if he knows that he'll look up and make sure. That's why it all sits in the same office. So for example, if he goes out and gives a violation, one of the things he's doing is checking. If they say, well, I rent here, that's not my responsibility, he's looking against the rental registration list to make sure that that's on there. We are collecting new rental registrations every year in terms of that list lengthening or growing, to make sure that we are capturing as many people as we can. It is the onus and responsibility, is a legal responsibility to report and to register. So we do a lot to make sure that there's a component through RETA that we can access as well.
Okay. So it might be something that, just throwing this out there, something that we can consider with the collaboration with administration, and excuse me, Madam Chair, to, if I'm just looking at these numbers, if we're leaving any money on the table and a renter has multiple properties like Finebrook or whomever, I want to make sure that we're getting every single dollar for as much as we can. We may not hit 100%, but potentially let's get close to 90% or even 80% as we can. So maybe something for council to consider is finding a way, because we just recently had our county auditor here. If there is something that they utilize in their system based upon zip code or street name or some other variable that can tell us every rental property in our community, and then potentially do like a VLOOKUP, some kind of way. I'm sure there is a way. So I'm not sure if that's something council wants to do, or even if, Ms. Dukestein, if you've had that partnership with the county auditor.
I don't have that partnership. I don't see a clear path, but I'm willing to look and to make sure
Okay,
that
great.
we've
Madam Chair,
exhausted everything.
Yes, Ms. Stevenson.
I would like to point out that Vinebrook actually is one of the first people who sends their rental check.
They send what? I didn't hear you.
They're one of the first companies to send their rental check.
Okay.
It's
But
the
they're
it's the
also a
small,
company on the
it's
tax
small,
assessment.
It's small home. It's small
It's
home.
the-
But yeah, that's because they didn't maintain their property.
Yeah.
But I'm saying they do the easy stuff. It's the small homeowners
It is.
that are this week I owned it, next week I'm renting it.
Yes.
And that there is currently literally no, well, I won't say no, but this is when you find out you have a new rental property. When someone files taxes and all of a sudden claims rental on their IRS taxes.
Mhm.
Now you found out, oh, you have rental property.
Mhm.
Well, then now, but that's a year later.
Mhm.
That's a year later. And so now they've done it 1 year. Now you go into, they're like, oh no, I'm a owner occupied. And so there's this cat and mouse that happens.
Madam President.
It's just, just to give an idea there, like it's very difficult to find all renters because everyone doesn't want to be known as a renter unless it has a tax benefit to it.
Mhm.
All right, are there any other old business items?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. 16?
I'll be real brief. The other circumstance which you catch people is when they have a violation and they call to complain like, my landlord was supposed to take care of that. And I'm like, that's not registered as a rental property. And then I'll put it over and
Right.
they'll get a letter out. So,
All right. So, I mean, there's many avenues to catch them is what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
That's perfect. All right. Can we move on from this, please?
yes.
Perfect. All right, any other old business items? Perfect.
Madam President,
New business?
I'm sorry, new business, Madam President,
Say again, which one?
FOP.
Oh,
Part-time FOP, I just want you to know, Bill sent the new document to me, so I'll send it to you. And I'm assuming that you're gonna reach out to make sure that there's an executive session to talk.
I will do that.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, Ms. Cureton?
So for new business, a couple of things. One is, it's so unfortunate that the county has lost its funding for the youth in the community, and we realize that we do have a concern in North College Hill. And so before I actually share what I have, Ms. Dukestein, were you able to find funding so that we can employ any youth in our community?
No.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like Mrs. Stevens is working diligently to collect the funding from RETA, to collect funding for rental registration, and those are things that we maybe didn't have in 2025. And so I would like to propose that we look at an idea of having youth employed in our community through the city. And what that would look like, and let me pull up the numbers that I have, because I'm thinking always about the numbers. We have Public Works, we have Finance, we have HR, we have Administration, we have the Senior Center, and I think Senior Center, yeah, and one more. And the idea is to And it's not just North College Hill, but if we can do something about North College Hill, I would love for us to do that. If we are able to hire at least 1 or 2 individuals part-time working in North College Hill up to 20 hours per week under the direction and vision of each department head at about $13 an hour. The way I calculated it, it was about $29,000 that the city would potentially invest back into the community. That's 2 people per department, 6 departments, June 1 through August 1, and somewhere around 30,000. And I believe that we have it based upon the additional fund that we have, the additional dollars rather, in our general fund that we have. This is a small investment that we can have towards North College Hill. So I would love for us to further develop the conversation and see what that process of having them apply, how we can make sure that we can partner. And it will almost, I would hope that it will almost mimic what you had last year with the Topper House. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. However, I think it's necessary that we find something for our youth to do in our community. And this is just a start and a very, very ineffective, or excuse me, a very, very cost-effective start.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Chichester.
Madam
Ms. Dukestein.
Chair. Yes.
I had an update from you from the event I attended the weekend. There's a program called WIOLA, and the gentleman I spoke to said they can pay youth for 12 weeks if they're eligible for $15 an hour. It has to be 20 hours maximum per week for up to 12 weeks. And that was going to be in my report for you to give to you for the event. So,
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Dukestein.
Do you want to just table this and because we're late?
Considering we're
Yes.
10 minutes over and we
Okay.
haven't got to new business, yes.
Okay.
thank you.
I'll reserve my comment.
All right. I guess we are in new business.
That was
Sorry.
new business.
Sorry. Ms. Gasnight, didn't you tell me that you had something for new business from your committee?
Nope.
You did.
I probably did tell you, but my brain is not working right now.
All right.
Sorry.
I have a new business question real quick. So given I know you said you were going to distribute in the last CCDR meeting, the appraisal. Are you then also going to start talking about the dollars in budget and finance, or how are you? Because typically, well, not typically, in the past, they were talked about in just budget and finance, but since you kind of split it up, I want to make sure we have simultaneously the discussions at the same time, because we need to figure. I mean, now we for sure have a deadline by the December the 26th, and we're in a good space where we can talk about what we need to do with those ARPA dollars. Not a good space, but we're down to the absolute last wire. And Ms. Shiva Stevens and I have an ongoing conversation that we're gonna have to write a check. And I keep saying we're not. She keeps saying we are. So I'm hoping that we can quantify those dollars so
Please
that we don't
prove
have
me
to.
wrong.
I mean, I know we talked about this in CCDR, but I'd really like to set up that meeting to talk to Mr. Berry so that we all hear the same thing at the same time. And then we know,
But
we have a little better idea of how to proceed.
But at this point, we have to spend the dollars by December. Are you looking to?
I get it, but
What are you looking for? Because I would rather
all
have,
available options to spend that money on.
Okay, so you just want an outline of what it can be spent on? Is that where your doubt is?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Gaston?
please. I would like to have a conference call so we're all hearing the same
But
information.
I've shared with you why that's not a good idea. But I can share it again when we come out of this meeting.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Curtin.
Ms. Chichester, when you have that information, and that's so exciting to hear that there is an opportunity for something for our youth in the community, can you also forward me that information as well so that we can work with Ms. Dukestein to ensure that we make this plan come to life? in
Yes,
North
I'm
Glasgow?
sending a connection email between the gentleman and Ms. Dukestein already, so it's in my draft. I just need to hit
Okay,
send.
excellent. Thank you so much.
All right,
Madam
again,
Chair.
it's 1:15. Do we have anything else in new business? All right, parking lot. Do you have anything to add to the parking lot?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have anything to add to this as of right now. I want to apologize. Most people know I had a death in my family, and my brain is half here and half not here. But I will make sure. I think Ms. Chichester and Ms. Clear had mentioned that they would like to see the breakdown of everything, so I will provide that this week. And then at our next meeting, we could talk about if this is something that we want to do and if it's feasible and fun for our city. But as of right now, I have nothing new to add. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody got anything else? We good? Madam Mayor, you've been mighty quiet tonight.
Yes.
All right.
Well,
Oh, see?
no. So like maybe 4 times someone asked the question that I had, so I just left it. And I was going to make a comment, but you moved on, so I left it there. But I don't even remember what the comment was.
All right. So, just to reiterate, I think I only have 2 follow-ups, and that is getting the legislation to council floor and getting executive session on the council agenda.
And the file cabinet. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms.
And
Chichester?
following up with Ms. Clear about the file cabinets.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Ready, set, go. We're adjourning at 8:15.